Hey there, Brian King here again. I received an email recently from a parent who was confused about whether to have her son, or if it may be a daughter for you, it applies either way, to get her child assessed, potentially for ADHD. And she was getting a lot of feedback from relatives about how important it is not to label her child. And I've been hearing this conversation for at least a decade. My 3 boys are diagnosed with Asperger's and ADHD. I have ADHD and dyslexia. And I heard some of the same things too, even from teachers. They would ask in their life, do you really want your child to feel different? I honestly think the person who was asking me those questions was thinking about, do you really want the school district to pay more money for your kid? Yes. Okay. A lot of the fear behind the labeling, I think, this is just my experience, is about ego. And they think they might suffer a wound themselves if they were to announce to the world that their child was less than perfect. They may be saying that they're protecting their child, and I suspect that's true as well. You know, you don't want your child picked on. You don't want them to do it differently. So the first question to ask yourself is, whose ego are you protecting? What's your real motive here? Is it because you are a little insecure about it? You're afraid of criticism or people talking about you? Not that they will. Trust me, people have a lot more to do to worry about their own lives than what we're doing. Or is it because of some genuine sense that labeling others people separates them and you want to prevent that from happening? Important questions to ask and answer for yourself. But here's some other questions. If you could probably use some help, but you deny your child the best testing and the opportunity to have a label that explains these difficulties. If you deny them that testing and the label, does your child's awkward behaviors suddenly disappear? Probably not. They may become child is not given the opportunity to get to know himself, to understand why these things are happening. Why am I inclined to blurt out in class? Why do I have these difficulties socializing? And, well, my dad says I shouldn't have a label, and mom says I shouldn't talk about these difficulties because the kids might think I'm different. Sit here, I think I'm a freak or whatever other label I give myself because I don't understand why things are so hard. So those behaviors don't suddenly disappear simply because you are refusing to embrace a label. If your child has any learning problems, are those going to be miraculously solved? Is your child suddenly going to be able to focus in class? Suddenly be able to remember? The lack of a label does not solve that problem either. So think about it. What solutions are you denying yourself? What solutions are you denying your child? There are a lot of extra supports that you can get from the school system to help compensate for those skill gaps that your child has, or accommodations to work around them entirely. Because of my dyslexia, I have an incredibly hard time reading the written word. So having access to digital copies of books where I can use text-to-speech technology, essentially the computer is reading to me, that is life-changing for me. But the only reason I was able to discover is because I was diagnosed with dyslexia. I was shown exactly where my difficulties are, and I was given recommendations for specific remedies. All of that came by virtue of testing and diagnoses. So if you continue to think that there's too much at stake for labeling your child, yeah, It's not easy carrying a label cycle, but you know something? If you're tripping and fumbling through life because you don't know why you're struggling, you don't know what you're doing, you're going to be criticized anyway. So without that label, you are guaranteeing things will be harder, and it's all unnecessary. It's important that you get to know yourself, so that you have some looking at yourself and how you engage the world, so that you can find those specific solutions that will make the road a lot less bumpy and will increase the likelihood that you will be successful, because knowing where the glitches are early on gives you a greater amount of opportunities to find the tools and strategies and knowledge you need to keep you going forward and feeling successful along the way. So to those parents who still think, I'm never going to label my child, what advice would you give your child then when he comes to you with the struggles he's having learning? Or are you going to say, try harder? Oh, just ignore it. You don't know what the other kids are saying. Or do you say to your spouse, don't sweat it. I'm sure he'll grow out of it. Ain't going to happen. It doesn't work that way. Things may change over time. They always do. But the likelihood of them getting better or going away is slim. So don't count on it. Last note. When you're thinking about what's the best way to raise your child, what's the best way to help your child, would you rather be flying blind? Would you rather be playing archery blind? Would you much rather be able to see the target and know exactly where you need to aim? I prefer the target. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been helpful. And if there's somebody else that you feel could benefit from this message, pass it along. And if you want to touch base with me, then find me online at thecompassionatedad.com. This has been Brian.